Good day, boys and girls. Welcome to another lesson with Miss Brown. Today we're going to be working on a comprehension topic called story elements. So turn to a new page and let's begin. So first of all, I want you to write the title, Story Elements. And what that basically means is these are things that you can think about as you're reading a fiction story. So if you're going to read a fiction story, it's going to be impossible to remember every single detail of the story. But if you can think of story elements, they will help you pull out the important parts of the story. So there are four main story elements that we can discuss. As you get into the upper grades, it's going to get a little bit more technical and challenging. But these are four basic ones that you can start off with for right now. Okay? The first one is characters, setting, problem, and solutions. Okay, so at this point, I want you to press me on pause and write down these four basic story elements. Okay, so you're back. All right, so the characters. Do you know what characters are in a story? Olivia, what are characters?
Characters can be people, plants, animals, whoever has a part in the story, and if it talks, it's a character.
Okay, so dialogue is the important thing to remember. Okay, so in a story, any person, animal, plant, the wind, the cloud, if it's talking, if it has a role to play, it is a character. Okay, so the characters are who is talking in the story. Okay, so at this point you can press me on pause to get this written down. Lennox. Next. Do you know what the setting is in a story?
Where the story takes place.
Okay, very good. So the setting is where a story takes place. It could take place in the ocean. It could take place in a forest. It can take place on the moon, in your house. It's going to come on this side. Where the story takes place. So I'll get out of your way so you can write that down. Put me on pause. Okay, next we're going to look at the problem. Okay, so we have some characters, we have some people or animals that are doing all the talking. The setting is where the story is taking place. Then we have a problem. A problem is what went wrong. So something goes wrong. There is a dilemma. Okay, so the problem is what goes wrong. So what goes wrong? Or it's really something that needs fixing. Okay? So then if the problem is what goes wrong, what do you think the solution could be? Anybody? Lennox?
The solution could be how they fix the problem.
Very good. So the solution would be how you fix the problem. So how does the problem get solved? How do you fix it? What do the characters do to fix the problem? So how to fix the problem. So again, put me on pause so you can get the definitions down for these four very basic story elements. Okay, so you should have enough time to write these four story elements down. So this is the bare bones of pulling important information out of a fiction story. If you can identify these four items, then you should be in good shape to understand the story. So now we're going to do some practice. What I want you to do is on your RazKids account, I have actually put a story into your account for your assignments called Dictionary Dave. So all I want you to do is I want you to put me on pause, go to your RazKids account and listen. Just listen to the story, Dictionary Dave. As you're reading, I want you to think about who the characters are. I want you to think about where the story takes place. I want you to think about what goes wrong, what's the problem in the story. And then I want you to think about how is it solved, how is the problem fixed, and then we're going to work through that together. Okay? All right, so you should have had enough time just to listen to the story Dictionary Dave, and I asked you to think about these elements, the characters, the setting, the problem, the solution. So characters, do you guys know any of the characters? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, so put me on pause. I want you to try to write down the characters, and I'm going to ask Olivia and Lennox who the characters were. So put me on pause, and then go ahead. Lennox, what was one character?
Ben.
Okay, so Ben was a character. Olivia?
And another character was Dave.
Dave, okay, so Ben and Dave.
I think would their mom and dad be okay?
Possibly, those would be minor characters. And the bullies, they would be minor characters, but the major characters, the most important ones would be Ben and Dave. Those are the ones that really made the story. Okay, next, the setting. Where does the story take place? You can put me on pause again and write it down. I'm going to ask these guys. Lennox, where did it take place? In a school. Good job. Okay, so I'll write down here in a school. All right. Next one's a little bit tricky. What goes wrong? So put me on pause. Is it still playing? Yes, perfect. Okay, so what goes wrong in the story? Any ideas, guys? What was the problem? What do you think, Olivia?
The problem was when Dictionary did, he thought these words, his brother had tricked him. He thought all these words meant things, but because he was studying off his brother's test, but they meant the wrong thing.
Good. Okay, so that is a problem. That is part of the problem. So Dictionary Dave is using these really cool words and he's spelling them correctly, but he's not using them in the right context. And Ben can't figure out, well, how does he know these big words? And he is not using them correctly. He's getting them wrong. So that was a problem because Ben's like, okay, I need to figure this out. All right, so I'm going to put myself on pause. Okay, Olivia's still talking. All right, you can see it. All right, so I just put it, just to be short, I put Dave uses big words incorrectly. So he was studying off of his brother's spelling test, and he can spell them correctly, but he's not using them in the right context. And the last thing to think about, the last story element, solutions, how to fix the problem. So this is our problem. Dave uses big words incorrectly. So how do characters go about fixing the problem? Anybody? Okay, so put me on pause, and now listen to Olivia. Okay, go ahead, Olivia.
Ben, he helped him. So in the classroom, they had to write a story, and they had different words, and she paired up Ben and Dave, and then Ben figured out what happened, and they started to talk, and then they went to the dictionary and did the right word, so now Dave understood.
Okay, that was a very good explanation. So basically, Ben used the dictionary to help Dave study the correct definitions, and then he was able to do quite well. Okay, so for the solution, I put Ben used the dictionary to help Dave study. And why I had you all on pause, Olivia says, maybe you should do a lesson on major and minor characters. So that is a little bit higher level. So, but students, just get your parents to send me an email if you want me to do a lesson on major and minor characters. I don't mind giving you a challenge if you need it. But Olivia, I can definitely do that for you. Okay, so hopefully there is no confusion. Hopefully it's very straightforward, the story elements. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to go back to the story Dictionary Dave, and I want you to now read the story. If you can record it, please record it so I can hear your fluency. And I want you to answer the comprehension questions. What you're going to find is that the comprehension questions should be a lot easier now that you pulled out these important bits. Okay? And then once you do that, I want you to actually do a writing activity. Okay, so once you finish the comprehension, I want you to do a writing activity. When I was a little girl in primary school, I used to love creative writing. That was my favorite thing to do. Okay, so if you don't like writing, let's try to get you into it. Okay, let's try to get you to be creative. So you are going to write a fiction story, so it's not going to be true, using the story elements. So using those 4 elements: setting, characters, problem, and solution. So I'm going to give you 5 titles to choose from. You can choose any one of these titles. The Dare, My Teacher's Secret, The Talking Teddy Bear, The Fight, or The Boy with Magical Powers. So you can do this in your writing books, but just make sure that you include the 4 story elements. And I look forward to reading them. So I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. I hope that you come up with some really creative, awesome stories. I'm looking forward to reading them. And I hope that you have a great rest of the day. Bye.